You're 8 when the alerts start. Not sirens. Alerts. On your mom's phone, on the school tablets, on the television that stays on past dinner now. Little red banners at the top of every screen. You don't read them fully, but you absorb the names. Ukraine, Russia, Iran, the Gulf. Your teacher explains that the world is going through a difficult time, which is the adult way of saying something they don't want to explain. You accept that. You're 8. The world has always been going through a difficult time in your memory. Your dad watches the news with the volume low after bedtime. You can hear it through the wall. The word escalation comes through a lot. You don't know exactly what it means, but you know from the way he watches that it's the kind of word that only gets bigger. Your town is small. Not poor, not rich. The kind of place that has a dollar store and a diner and a recruiting office between them that's always had a small flag in the window. You walked past it 10,000 times before you ever really looked at it. You're 13 when the draft registration changes. The government doesn't call it a draft. They call it an expanded readiness framework. You hear it on the news, and your teacher explains that all it means is that registration now starts at 16 instead of 18, which is just a formality, which is just to be prepared. She says prepared the way people say fine when they don't mean fine. Your older brother is 17, and he comes home quiet that day. You ask him what's wrong, and he says nothing, and you believe him because you want to. The wars have metastasized by now. Ukraine is in its 5th year. There are American troops stationed in Poland and the Baltic states. Israel and Iran have traded hundreds of airstrikes. The news says things like multi-theater conflict and asymmetric engagement, and you understand none of it except that more people are dying in more places and that it has been going on your entire life with no visible edge in sight. At school, there's a new unit in social studies. They call it civic preparedness. You learn about the history of service. You learn about sacrifice. There is a laminated poster in the hallway with a soldier silhouetted against a sunrise and the word chosen in large letters underneath. You walk past it every day. You don't think about it very much. It's just there, like the water fountains. You're 16 when you register. It takes 11 minutes. You do it online, the way you renew a library card. Your mom is in the kitchen when you finish, and you tell her, and she doesn't turn around for a second, and then she does, and she says okay and asks what you want for dinner. You both understand that this moment deserves more space than either of you knows how to give it. The world is louder by now. Pakistan and Afghanistan have been in open declared war since February. Drones are everywhere. Over borders, over cities, over the sea in the Strait of Hormuz where tankers have been burning and oil prices have done something that means the food at the grocery store costs more. Your town lost one kid from the class above you, not in battle. A training accident in Georgia. They held an assembly. The principal called him a hero before his family had even finished burying him. You think he was 19. He drove a used Camry and worked at the pizza place on Route 9 on weekends. You don't say this out loud because resentment is the kind of feeling that gets you in trouble, the kind that other people call disrespectful when you have it toward the right institutions. So you fold it down somewhere beneath your ribs and leave it there. You're 18 and they call it a deployment opportunity. That's the phrase in the letter. Deployment opportunity, as if you applied, as if you had been selected from a pool of strong candidates. You had not applied. You had registered, which you were required to do, and the system had moved forward from there with the automated indifference of something that was never personal to begin with. Your mom cries, your dad shakes your hand, and then hugs you, and you feel him shaking a little, and that shakes you more than anything else has so far. Your brother, 23 now, got a medical deferment 2 years ago for a knee he blew out in high school soccer. And sometimes you catch him looking at you in a way that means he knows what the deferment actually cost. Basic is 8 weeks in a flat stretch of South Carolina that smells like red clay and diesel. The drill sergeant never yells the way they do in movies. He's just tired. Everyone there is just tired in a specific professional way, the way of people who have been doing a thing long enough that the drama has worn off, and what's left is process. You learn to strip and reassemble a rifle in the dark. You learn to sleep on 4 hours. You learn that the body will do things the mind refuses if you give the body no other option. Someone in your unit, a guy from rural Tennessee named Caldwell, says the thing out loud that no one else is saying. He says, "We didn't choose this." Not really. And the sergeant, who is nearby and hears it, doesn't say anything at all. Just keeps walking. That silence means something. You tuck it away with the resentment. They share a drawer now. You're 19 and you're in Poland. Not at the front. Not yet. You're at a logistics post 40 kilometers from the Belarusian border, loading and unloading things tracking inventory on tablets, sleeping in a structure that is technically a building but feels like the memory of one. The drones go over at night, not always hostile ones. Sometimes they're yours. You can't always tell, and after a while you stop trying. The generals are making decisions in Brussels and Washington and somewhere in a situation room where it's probably cold and the coffee is probably good. Power sits up there. Consequence lands down here. That has always been true. You learned that at 13, at 16, and now at 19, you are simply living in the proof of it. There are officers who are good and officers who are not, and most of them are simply trying to manage something too large for any individual to manage, and you do not hate them specifically. That's the part no one prepares you for. You expected to have someone to be angry at. A face, a name, a clear villain giving orders for clear bad reasons. But there is no such person. There is only a system, and a system has no face, and you cannot be angry at a fog. You think about leaving, not deserting. You think about a version of your life in which you're somewhere else. A town in another country that is not at war. A job that is not this. You run the math on it. Your family is at home. Your record would follow you. The borders of the places worth going are complicated now. Everyone's borders are complicated now. The world in 2026 is a place of walls and wires and biometric checkpoints. And freedom of movement turns out to be a thing mostly available to people with money you don't have. So you stop running that math. Some doors only look like doors. You're 21 when you see the thing you will never fully talk about. It is not what the movies made you imagine. There is no music. There is no clear moment of before and after. There is a morning, and then there are some hours, and then there's an evening that is different from all evenings before it. And you carry that difference the way you'd carry a stone in your chest that you have learned the exact weight of. You do your job. You do it correctly. That is what there is to do. The generals will be in the history books. The politicians who decided that this particular moment, these particular coordinates on the map, were worth the cost, they will be in the history books too. There will be chapters about the decisions made in those rooms with the good coffee. There will be footnotes about tactical considerations and geopolitical outcomes. There will be a timeline with dates and arrows. You will not be in any of it. You were not there in any way history records. You were just the body, the instrument, the necessary infrastructure of someone else's legacy. You don't say this with bitterness, not anymore. You say it the way you describe weather. It's true the way cold is true. It just is. You're 23 and you're home. The town is the same and also not the same. The recruiting office is still there with the flag. The diner changed owners. Your brother has a kid now, a daughter with his eyes, and when you hold her, she grabs your finger and you stay very still because that feeling is the clearest thing you have felt in 2 years. People ask you how it was. You say fine mostly. They nod the way people nod when they're grateful not to have to know more. Someone at a barbecue calls you a hero and you smile and say thanks, and then you go get another drink and stand by the fence for a while looking at the yard. There is no parade. There is no ceremony, not for people at your level, not for the logistics and the maintenance and the unglamorous necessary work of keeping a machine running. The medals, when they come in a small box in the mail like a phone charger you ordered. You put them in the drawer with some other things. Some nights are hard. Some mornings are hard. You have learned to move through the hard ones the way you learn to move through anything in South Carolina. Put one thing down, pick the next thing up, keep going because stopping is not a real option and because your body will comply if you give it no alternative. Here is the thing they never tell you, the thing that is not on the poster in the hallway with the sunrise and the word chosen. You did not choose this. The world was already on fire when you arrived in it. The decisions were made before you were born, about which countries would become rivals, about which resources were worth fighting over, about what a young person from a small town between a dollar store and a diner is worth in a larger calculation. You were factored in before you had a name. You were always going to be useful in a specific way to people who will not remember your face. And knowing that, carrying that, you got up every morning in the clay dust and the cold Polish dark and the long silent hours of watching drone lights move across the sky. You did your job. You came home. You held your niece. You stand by a fence at a barbecue and drink something cold and let the sun sit on your face for a minute. No one is watching. No one is writing this down. No history will record this particular moment. You alive, standing in a yard on an ordinary day in a world that tried to use you up and didn't quite finish. That's the whole thing. That's what victory looks like from here. You're still here. You got to keep going. That's all. That's enough. That has to be enough.